How would Sun Tzu negotiate on behalf of a relatively weaker party in a two-party M&A deal? Well, so people often think that big multinational companies have all the leverage in M&A negotiations, while the weaker party has significantly less leverage. Well, this is not the case at all, especially if you ask Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu is famed for his war strategies on how the weaker party in a conflict can actually turn the situation around. In M&A terms, Sun Tzu has listed out his principles on how the weaker side can gain leverage over the stronger side in an M&A deal through the use of advanced strategies on timing, the overall state of affairs in a negotiation deal, and the use of offensive and defensive tactics. Let's not forget that it's normally the bigger companies which initiate an M&A with a much smaller company, such as how Tesla merged with SolarCity in 2016 and how Johnson & Johnson merged with Auris Health. Smaller companies must always remind themselves that they are approached because of the potential bigger companies see in them. Hence, the difference in leverage is usually not as big as smaller companies think. So let's talk about Sun Tzu's first principle when negotiating from a weaker position, which is to defend using normal forces whilst getting the win using surprising forces. So I've translated this phrase from Chinese directly to English, hence it may sound a bit weird, but I'll try to explain clearly. So in a war, Sun Tzu has always stressed the importance of a surprise element. Without a surprise element, the chances of winning are significantly less. What he meant by a surprise element is the use of surprise forces to attack an enemy who is unprepared for such an attack. At the same time, Sun Tzu understands the importance of having normal forces to stave off attacks and defend against the enemy. Hence, it is the balance that one must strive for between the use of normal and attack forces to win in a war. Sun Tzu also stresses that wars are always decided through the usage and timing of surprise forces, whilst normal forces are used to provide favorable conditions for the surprise forces to stage a successful surprise attack. So let's talk about the psychological weakness of smaller companies in an M&A deal. So our M&A team frequently notices how mentally unprepared, or in worst cases, detect significant mental fragility in the executive level personnel of smaller companies in charge of M&A negotiations with their more powerful counterpart. Our first question we ask them normally when we notice a fragile mindset is why they would like to enter into an M&A negotiation if they aren't mentally prepared. It is often wiser to not enter negotiations until you are at least 80 to 90% prepared mentally, and in some cases, physically. We feel that smaller businesses are often mentally weaker because of the perceived power of the company. If I were a big business, I would try all my best to establish psychological leverage before and during M&A negotiations over my opponent, as Sun Tzu would always advocate. The best outcome for any war is to win without any costs. Therefore, it is the small business's responsibility to figure out how to prevent their seemingly much more powerful opponent from winning too easily, or in M&A terms, getting the terms and conditions they want all too easily. In reality, whether an opponent is powerful or not is just our perception to some extent, and relatively smaller businesses involved in M&A negotiations must find out why they are of value to their opponents. Small businesses involved in M&As should always remember the primary reason why they are M&A targets. That is, larger businesses potentially find it costlier and time-consuming to build a business, brand, or branch by themselves, compared to if they directly acquire a smaller business that is doing what they wish to do. Hence, Small businesses must realize that their more powerful opponent has a significant cost to bear if an M&A deal is unreached, and it is their responsibility to find out what the cost is so as to gain leverage in an M&A negotiation. So how do we get the best M&A deal? Well, we must include an element of surprise, as Swinton says. During the M&A stage, a significant element is obviously valuation. How much does a business actually cost at present, and more importantly, in the future? If a small medium business owner is currently reading this, you must realize the ways in which you can boost your business's overall value, especially in the weeks leading up to the valuation. It is hard to make any changes to your present value when you're near the valuation stage, since it is near impossible to suddenly generate significant new streams of revenue ahead of the valuation. But what we focus on is how you can pump up your business's future growth measurements. How we help clients approach a valuation is by categorizing business assets into two categories: a normal element and a surprise element. Normally, valuators, auditors, and accountants will begin valuation proceedings by assessing your business turnover, cash flow, and costs, and they do so through examining your client accounts. At this stage, you, as the business owner, must realize the significant power you have over the people assessing your worth, what information you will release, and when you will release them. Eventually, you will have to release all your information, but we often structure information releases on behalf of clients in a way where we first release 90% of the information required. This 90% will consist entirely of what we initially categorized as normal elements, which may include small to medium accounts and some larger accounts. After some time passes, we will release the final 10% of the information, which is entirely consisted of what we call the surprise elements. Accounts and other info deemed extremely valuable that will significantly boost up the perceived future value of the company. The surprise element does not end here. During M&A negotiations, which are often long and protracted, it is often that the supposedly more powerful party makes known their demands first. These initial demands are often based on the initial information received, but remember, our golden rule of M&A negotiations is to only release what we classified as normal information first. Information that will of course benefit the M&A outcome, but will not significantly bring us an advantage during negotiations. During the middle stage of M&A negotiations, it is then that we would release information deemed surprising to a more powerful opponent, such as information that our opponent would understand as having significant benefits to their business expansion, which they didn't foresee ahead of negotiations. By adding a surprising element, it is very likely that the final deal amount agreed will be better than first expected. In Swinton's terms, the normal elements are used to keep the M&A negotiations going positively, while the surprise elements are used to actually get a great deal, instead of simply a good or mediocre deal. So thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed. See you in our next video.